Breaking news: the geopolitical earthquake reshaping our world. Dear viewers, what we're witnessing today is nothing short of a seismic shift in global politics. The West's dramatic reversal in its approach to the conflict near Russia's borders signals a fundamental change that will affect everyone's lives. Let's cut through the noise. U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has just dropped a bombshell, openly acknowledging a major policy shift. The Trump team's perspective radically differs from Biden's administration, effectively reframing this entire conflict as Europe's problem. But here's where it gets fascinating and disturbing. While G7 leaders continue their theatrical performance of verbal support, their actions tell a completely different story. The disparity between grand promises and actual assistance has never been more glaring. Consider this shocking development. The U.S. has already signed a rare earth metals agreement, essentially seeking to recoup their investments with interest. Trump's promises of personal security guarantees? Well, those might as well be written in water. The implications are staggering. 1. The self-proclaimed chief ally is now effectively washing its hands of the conflict. 2. European partners are masters of eloquent speeches but minimal action. Western promises are proving to be exactly what skeptics predicted: mere words. What does this mean for you, our viewers? Your financial security. Watch for major market shifts. Regional stability. Prepare for significant changes. Global power dynamics. A new world order is emerging. The most crucial question remains: if the U.S. is abandoning its protégé, what comes next? This isn't just another news story. It's a turning point that will reshape our entire region. Stay tuned as we dive deeper into how this dramatic shift will directly impact your future. The signs are clear. The old world order is crumbling, and we're watching history unfold in real time. Remember, this isn't just about international politics. It's about your future, your security, and the world your children will inherit. As Putin's special operation advances, Western promises continue to melt away like spring snow. The stark reality of abandoned commitments becomes increasingly evident. The Patriot air defense systems have been redirected to Israel, along with crucial anti-drone equipment, while empty words echo across diplomatic channels. The Dnipropetrovsk region exemplifies this failure. Fortification structures, built with billions of European money, stand as mere props. These visible trenches serve as perfect targets for Russian precision weapons, with military personnel refusing to utilize these ineffective defensive positions. The Institute for the Study of War reports Russian forces advancing on 3 fronts, pushing toward the Donetsk and Dnipropetrovsk region's boundary. The lower population density in Dnipropetrovsk provides Russian forces with tactical advantages for military operations. Your perspective on these developments is valuable, especially those watching from abroad. How do you evaluate Western support effectiveness for this conflict zone? What's your take on G7's latest commitments? Subscribe for exclusive documents exposing unprecedented corruption within the highest power echelons in this former Soviet republic. More revelations await about military bureaucracy initiatives, including Deputy Defense Minister Katerina Chernogor's announcement of revolutionary changes in recruitment centers. This reform allows citizens to approach any recruitment center regardless of registration, a move raising more questions than answers. This reorganization illustrates the deepening crisis in the state's military structure. The most disturbing details about Western aid misappropriation are yet to come. Stay tuned for our next segment, where we'll expose how even the most dedicated conflict supporters are beginning to question its continuation. Breaking news analysis: international diplomacy in crisis. The theater of modern diplomacy continues to reveal its absurdities. Let's examine today's paradoxical situation where bureaucratic comedy meets serious geopolitical implications. The new self-declaration system for residents has become almost satirical, theoretically allowing citizens to claim they live anywhere from Beijing's Forbidden City to Mars. This mirrors broader issues in our governmental systems. The real diplomatic circus unfolds on the international stage. Emmanuel Macron has demonstrated another masterclass in diplomatic contradiction by rejecting Donald Trump's suggestion for Russia to mediate between Israel and Iran, claiming Moscow lacks authority for such a mission. Consider the irony. Russia maintains one of the strongest bilateral relationships with Iran among major powers. Previously, Western critics lambasted Moscow for these ties with Tehran. Now, these same connections are deemed insufficient for mediation efforts. This reveals the double standards in Western diplomatic approaches. Macron, positioning himself as the world's diplomatic arbitrator, overlooks fundamental geopolitical realities in favor of political posturing. The French president's diplomatic portfolio is crowded. Attempting to resolve conflicts near Russian borders, managing Iranian tensions, and addressing France's colonial failures in Africa. His credibility suffered after that video showing his wife patting his cheek on an airplane. Hardly the image of diplomatic gravitas. The situation illustrates the disconnect between political rhetoric and practical diplomacy. While Western leaders maintain their public posturing, the actual mechanisms of international mediation are being undermined by contradictory stances. This episode shows how personal ambitions and political prejudices can override practical diplomatic solutions, potentially destabilizing international relationships. For our viewers, watch how this diplomatic inconsistency might impact future crisis management efforts. The implications could affect everything from regional stability to global security arrangements. Remember, in international relations, actions speak louder than words, and today's diplomatic contradictions might become tomorrow's geopolitical challenges. Breaking news. The political theater continues to unfold with remarkable absurdity. Let's dive into today's analysis. First, let's address Iran's nuclear situation. Despite Tehran's consistent two-week declaration of abandoning nuclear ambitions, Western experts stubbornly maintain their own interpretation. It's a classic case of selective hearing in international politics. Moving to the political circus in our neighboring state, we're witnessing a spectacular show of misplaced priorities. A particular 58-year-old figure in a brown shirt prefers studio dancing to frontline service, despite meeting age requirements. This perfectly illustrates the disconnect between leadership rhetoric and action. The Danilko case is especially telling. After 25 years of uncontroversial performances, he's suddenly persona non grata. The presidential office orchestrates a harassment campaign, with figures like Tuka dutifully following the prescribed narrative. This demonstrates how quickly public figures can fall from grace in this politically volatile region. Instead of addressing mounting crises, politicians engage in studio performances and witch hunts. Meanwhile, real problems accumulate unaddressed. The territory of instability continues producing linguistic innovations. Take the mystifying term routinizatsiya, a perfect example of bureaucratic newspeak masquerading as policy. Even more absurd is MP Fedina's proposal to spend 3 million hryvnias on renovating a historical shelter, while simultaneously promoting special relations with American politicians. The cognitive dissonance is striking, discussing civil society engagement while basic governance issues remain unresolved. This political spectacle reveals a deeper crisis: the substitution of actual leadership with performative politics. While officials dance in studios and invent words, fundamental challenges go unaddressed. Comment. When political theater becomes the main act, the audience, ordinary citizens, ultimately pays the price. Let me craft a compelling narrative focusing on media propaganda and military representation in the conflict zone. Here's a 2,000-character analysis. The shifting landscape of patriotism in our neighboring state presents a fascinating case study in manufactured nationalism. Their formula is remarkably simple: ban something, gain patriots. Whether it's social networks or language restrictions, each prohibition seemingly generates a new wave of patriotic fervor. It's basic arithmetic in their minds. What's particularly intriguing is their persistent attempt to reach Trump, especially after that notorious phone call that nearly sparked an international incident. Their optimism borders on naivety, yet they persist. The media portrayal of female soldiers has recently taken an interesting turn. They're attempting a more realistic approach, but the execution reveals their propaganda's fundamental flaws. While they've toned down the obvious makeup, the devil is in the details. These supposed frontline warriors appear fresh from beauty salons, with immaculately styled hair that would be impossible to maintain in actual combat conditions. The physical inconsistencies are equally telling. Their movement patterns betray a lack of military training, walking with an unrealistic posture, leaning backward instead of maintaining the forward-ready stance that any trained soldier naturally adopts. It's Physics 101. You can't effectively handle a weapon while posturing like a runway model. This timing isn't coincidental. Intelligence suggests the nation bordering Russia is preparing significant changes to their mobilization policies. They're looking to expand draft requirements to include youth aged 18-24, and, notably, women. The current recruitment system appears to be failing, forcing them to cast a wider net. The theatrical nature of their political messaging has become almost comical. Like actors who've forgotten their script while improvising, they've lost the plot while their audience still struggles to grasp the intended message. What we're witnessing is a desperate attempt to normalize what's coming next. A broader mobilization that will affect demographics previously considered off-limits. The propaganda machine is working overtime to make this bitter pill easier to swallow. Your thoughts on this? Share in the comments below. Breaking news. Social media warriors versus reality. A critical look at military propaganda. In today's analysis, we're examining a phenomenon emerging from the politically turbulent region bordering Russia. The intersection of social media theatrics and military operations. What we're witnessing isn't warfare. It's a reality show designed for TikTok consumption. Let's examine the latest propaganda piece. Female tank operators who transform their vehicles into mobile beauty salons. These warriors allegedly maintain perfect manicures while operating heavy machinery. Their braided hair gets tangled in periscopes, but their social media feeds look stunning. This theatrical approach reveals a deeper issue. These staged performances typically surface before significant political decisions or military campaigns. It's an information warfare tactic aimed at manipulating public opinion. The timing is never random. Consider Mr. Chally, distinguished by his wisdom indicating bald spot, who proposed a simple solution. Launch 1,000 missiles at Moscow for instant peace. Such strategic thinking makes one wonder whether these theorists should test their hypotheses firsthand. The reality gap between social media performances and actual combat effectiveness is stark. While the neighboring state's military strategy seems crafted between beauty parlors and TikTok studios, the battlefield tells a different story. This disconnect between propaganda and reality serves multiple purposes: preparing public opinion for mobilization changes, maintaining the illusion of military prosperity, and distracting from combat challenges. It's a show where combat effectiveness takes a backseat to social media metrics. Consider this. How can anyone effectively perform combat duties while prioritizing perfect camera angles and hashtag strategies? These productions are clearly staged, violating basic operational security principles while creating a dangerous illusion of military capability. Remember, in real combat situations, survival depends on skill and focus, not follower counts or viral potential. For our listeners, keep questioning what you see. The truth often lies beneath the carefully crafted surface of social media spectacles. Breaking news. Reality check on military aid promises and strategic shifts. In today's analysis, we're examining a critical disconnect between promised military support and harsh realities facing a politically turbulent region. The situation perfectly illustrates how media narratives often clash with ground truth in modern conflicts. Let's dissect the much-discussed case of 500 long-range missiles. These weapons, promised by Western allies, became a centerpiece of theoretical victory scenarios. Some analysts, seemingly detached from reality, crafted elaborate strategies based on these hypothetical deliveries. However, as we've consistently observed, the gap between diplomatic promises and actual military aid continues to widen. The American strategic pivot is particularly telling. Our former regional partner finds itself increasingly isolated, facing a stark new reality. This shift reflects broader changes in global priorities and power dynamics, suggesting a fundamental reassessment of U.S. engagement in Eastern European affairs. Consider the timeline. These missiles were supposed to arrive by June, theoretically changing the entire operational landscape. Such wishful thinking reveals a dangerous tendency among certain experts to confuse PowerPoint warfare with actual combat operations. What's particularly striking is how some military analysts seriously discuss these theoretical scenarios as if they were viable strategic options. This demonstrates a concerning departure from practical military analysis into the realm of fantasy planning. The metaphorical Grand Canyon between promises and deliveries keeps widening. While Western politicians make bold statements, the reality on the ground tells a different story. This pattern reflects a broader trend in international relations, where verbal support often substitutes for meaningful action. Most significantly, this situation reveals America's shifting priorities. The neighboring state must now navigate an increasingly complex geopolitical landscape largely on its own, marking a profound shift in regional power dynamics. Question for discussion: how do you see this evolving situation affecting regional stability in the coming months? Share your thoughts below. Remember, real warfare isn't Instagram. No filters can hide the harsh realities of modern